marketing and business development for a technology company called Map Anything, based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We're essentially a location of things platform, so we're really taking more of a location-based approach to the way that we're taking telemetry from connected vehicles and processing that in the customer experience or the customer engagement system to actually help enterprises take the huge data lake and process that into something that can actually create a uniquely differentiated customer experience for the drivers.
Hey, I'm Charlie Isaacs, and first I'd like to ask a question of my own. How many people here are Salesforce customers? Great, thank you very much. Thanks for being Salesforce customers, really appreciate it. That saves me a lot of time having to explain what Salesforce is, so I won't explain what Salesforce is. I will explain to you, though, how Salesforce is working in the IoT space. Because as we went from your left to me, you heard about General Motors. General Motors makes vehicles. They connect the vehicles to the cloud. We don't do that at Salesforce. We don't make sensors, we don't make cars, believe it or not. GM is one of our customers, one of our great customers. And Map Anything is also built on what we call our App Exchange. It's like the App Store for apps, enterprise apps, and that's built on Salesforce. So Map Anything is one of our customers, and they do the middle part, what we call an IoT platform. So we don't do devices and cars, and we don't do a middle platform, but what we do is we take that and merge it with customer experience, customer context. So we can take the data from the first mile and the middle, and we can trigger workflows, buying activities, sales activities, and customer service activities. And that's what we do. And we like to call it CRM, IoT, or we also call it raising the customer experience when it comes to IoT.
And if I can follow up on that, because I assumed everybody who knows General Motors, I probably shouldn't do that. So GM as a company goes to market in the US with 4 brands, Chevrolet, Cadillac, GMC, and Buick. And when you talk about OnStar, which is the 5th brand actually for us, when you talk about the power that is that connected car, we receive something like 245,000 calls a day just from blue button pushes. We receive 6,000 ACN, accident crash notifications. That's where the car is calling in a distress situation, an accident situation, which, if you think about it, that's IoT, safety IoT, where devices contacting the device and we're intervening with the triage capability. From a connected services perspective, we have more than 9 million 4G LTE equipped vehicles on the road today. And from a data perspective, when you think about, and I'm sorry, I apologize, I have to read this, but the stats are tough to remember. But in 2016 to 17, for example, the data usage nearly was up by 300%. So from 6.8 million gigabyte to 20.3 million gigabyte of data. So what you're seeing is exponential use for the connected car, for data in the car as well.
So the car used to just be something that transported you from A to B, right? Yes?
Sure.
But now it's not, obviously. It's much more. It's like a mini moving data center. And so I'm going to kick the first question over to Steve, actually. Steve, tell our audience what type of data there is and how often do you get it and how you pass it along to your partners.
Sure. So it starts when you think about the connection to the vehicle. It is that high-speed, low-latency connection. If you think about the type of data how it starts with customer consent. So we have fleet customers, we have retail customers. They have to kind of opt into a program. We've got many different programs. I'll talk about a couple of them today, but it requires customer consent. From there, there's really, you can think about the data coming from the vehicle delineated in 2 ways. One is telemetry data. So that's the data that location information, speed, harsh brake. There's literally hundreds. I'm sure it's not news to anybody here. There's hundreds of sensors in a vehicle, and then there's also the remote command information. So that's the remote command capability. So that's the ability to reach out and connect with the car to do something like a location real-time lookup, or unlock, or lock, or alert, honk the horn, flash the lights. So that's the type of data that's available. How we connect through it is through a series of APIs that we've created. They're robust, hardened, and in fact, if anybody has a GM vehicle and they use what's called a My Branded app in the room, when you're engaging with that app to use those remote command capabilities, that's the same set of APIs that we're talking about when we talk to partners about. And that's probably sums it up, I would say.
All right, so Brian, with so much data coming our way, how do we even begin to make sense of it?
Yeah, well, we took a practical approach when thinking about data coming from a vehicle and being able to process it back in a system where the customer is engaging, or an agent or a salesperson is engaging with the customer. And the first approach we did was we decided to be a very B2B focused organization. So Steve talked about the retail side of OnStar and the fleet side. We concentrated on the fleet side because there was already a market there. There's kind of traditional vehicle telematics, plug a device into the OBD2 port, start gathering information to try and save on fuel costs, ensure your people are driving safely, etc. But we really saw a gap in the market where companies like Telogis, Fleetmatics, which are now part of Verizon, and others, were really kind of missing the last mile, if you will. And that was the way that they were connecting that data into the system of engagement for salespeople that were traveling on the road to be able to actually leverage that to plan their sales trips, to increase the adoption of their CRM platform. So you're capturing key information that your forecasting system needs to use to operate to see what kind of deals are going to close, right? So, I think we took a very kind of pragmatic approach very early. We're the smallest of the three companies on the panel, right? We don't have the brand of a GM or a Salesforce. It's kind of interesting to be sandwiched in the middle here. But ultimately to focus on one use case or kind of one piece of information that you can leverage, and not try and boil the data lake, if you will, and make all of that information usable all the time.
Let me add to what they both said, actually, because I love my Chevy Volt, by the way. I have my Chevy Volt app, and I leverage the data in my Chevy Volt, and it does push me alerts and things like that, and I really appreciate anybody that uses the Chevy Volt app appreciates the data that's being fed to me, and it tells me exactly when I need to go on for maintenance. So, talking about what Brian said about Map Anything, the data that's generated at that layer is, he's got functionality that we at Salesforce would never want to write. We don't want to write code that's associated with geofencing, associated with vehicle alerting. We don't want to know anything about that. We don't want to have have engineers assigned to write all that complex code. What we do instead is we trigger workflows that are already built into Salesforce. Or, for example, if there's a problem in the vehicle, why not create a trouble ticket, we call it a case, in Service Cloud, and take our out-of-the-box functionality that you can deploy currently within Service Cloud and just trigger those workflows that you've already built. You've already invested time and effort in building Sales Cloud workflows and Service Cloud workflows and things that touch the technician. We have this thing called field service lighting. You're going to dispatch a field technician. Why not leverage that vehicular data to trigger workflows and activities? And you'll probably hear it all week if you haven't heard it ad nauseum at this conference. The data that you generate is absolutely no good at all unless you can generate activities from the data and draw conclusions from the data. So we are completely useless. Don't quote me on this. But we're completely useless without these folks on my right here.
So it's my understanding that IoT and the connected car can truly make an impact on the customer experience, and really today, if you want a competitive advantage, it is all about customer experience. And so, Charlie, I'd like to hear from you how you believe this focus of IoT and the connected car really impacts the customer experience.
Well, I already just talked too much, but I'll just add one more thing. So, customer experience is not just about getting a notification that you need to go into maintenance, or being triggered, that activity being triggered as you drive by the dealer, right? Oh, hey, by the way, you just drove by your service department. Why not go in and get service, because your oil, in my case, in my Chevy Volt, is telling me my oil lifespan is reducing past a specific level and I should go in and get my oil replaced. And this is the first time actually in 2 years that message came up. So the experience that I have with my vehicle pertains to not just the data coming from the vehicle, but context. It has to know who I am. It has to know where I am. It has to know what the connected device